Hey, what's good everybody? My name's Alckemy. Welcome to the channel. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the Scorp Hapax from Scorp Instruments, to which thank you so much. They actually were kind enough to send me a demo unit to review, or not demo unit, but just a unit to review and to kind of give you my thoughts on. Maybe we'll do some comparison videos, especially with the Oxy 1 video, and I'll have a dedicated review sometime in the future. This is just a first impression on what this is, what it does, and what my favorite features are. I actually have a couple of wish lists for requests of adding updates in the future. But something that's really awesome is that this has been out since 2022. They have been updating it up until this point pretty frequently. I want to say like every few months. So hopefully some of my suggestions will make sense. Even still, there's a lot of fun to be had within this. So I will mention the Oxy 1 in a couple of use cases, but like I said, it's not going to be a dedicated comparison video. And if you don't know what this is, it is a crazy sequencer. Long story short, there are 16 different sequencers on each project. There's 2 different projects, and each step sequencer can have multiple notes. So before I go any further, this seems interesting. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Now to go further, something that the Oxy 1 has is also 32 step sequencers built in, but it only offers multi-track mode, to which each one has one note that you can put onto it. That's something that I think is one of the biggest changes in between this. And also, if you look, we've got 2 screens. This screen is for your data, for saying like, what note am I playing, whatever. This one is actually a full piano roll that you can zoom into if you want. You can get granular, you can scroll if you want to, but how sick is that? Just to be able to see what notes you're playing and what's going on, that's pretty awesome, and I think that's the biggest appeal. Long story short, I feel like the Oxy 1 is like my travel power companion. This is more so of on your desk, you know, it's get into like super nitty gritty. What are you doing? Be more hands-on and have a great visual. And it also just looks nice to work with. There's 8 knobs, as you can tell. There's 4 inputs for MIDI, 4 outputs for MIDI. You've got your CV and your gate on the back. There's the power connector, USB-B, I think, and an SD card on the back. And so let me show you that very quickly. So you can kind of see that. This does offer the typical regular MIDI, and then there's 1 input for the TRS jack, I believe, and then the same thing for the other, for the output as well. So yeah, this thing is awesome. What I love about it is that, for one, even though it is a lot to look at, it's very easy to see where everything is. Here's your sequencers. You got a shift button, you have algorithm, copy, paste, you have highlight your track, which is pretty awesome. Highlight all, which we'll be talking about here in the future. There's a live mode on here, to which if we go to the first sequencer, and something that's really cool about this is if you play triads, this will tell you what chord you're playing. Now, unfortunately, if you add to it, it'll go off of there, but it's pretty cool that you can at least play some triads and it'll be like, this is this chord, this is this chord. I don't know, it's just kind of a nice touch with that. There are 2 projects, as I said before, that can be completely different, BPM, key, whatever. And there's also a fill button that, let's say you have a sequence built into this, so we'll go back into step mode. And then maybe on this one, we're gonna go fill. So I can go like this, hit fill. And now you'll see that the colors change. And so whenever this plays, so that's something that is an extra feature as well. There's also a snapshot. So if you do something really cool and you're like, you know what, I want to keep working, but I want to make sure that I can recall this, you can hit the snapshot button and now you'll see that it's green. And so let's say I make some changes, just hitting random stuff, by the way, for context. And I'm like, oh, now I want to go back. Then you hit the snapshot button again and you can recall whatever it was that you were doing from before. That's pretty sick. And this also is kind of like a contingency plan for if you want to keep working, but you forgot to save or something else of the sort, or it's like I want to variate off of this. And speaking of, something else that's really cool is just the ease of use of copying and navigation and getting data in here in the first place. As you can see over on the left side, we'll talk about the algorithm in a second, but if I want to copy this, let's say to another pattern or so, I can go copy. You'll see now that the paste comes up because it's successfully copied. So I can go here either to sequencer 2, or I can go into the pattern mode, grab a new pattern off of this, go steps, and go paste. I might have messed that up, but let's try that one more time. So we'll go here, we'll go all, copy, and then go to the pattern, new pattern, step mode, and then all, paste. There we go. I think I forgot to hit all paste, but now we can just kind of move everything. So that's pretty awesome. And the navigation aspect of changing stuff is great too, because you can highlight each track if you want. You can set a chance to everything. You can transpose everything very easily. You can change the octave of everything, velocity, micro timing, which I want to talk about more in a second, chance, roll, which is repeats, or recurrences, conditions. Sorry, that's the one I'm looking for. You can set like this is only going to play every second to the second or every third, and it goes pretty deep with that, or fill if you want. So that's pretty awesome. I think that one of the biggest things for me compared to the Oxy One is that the workflow of this for this particular thing of just general sequencing is just a tad bit easier. Something about the Oxy One that is not terrible, but is a little bit cumbersome, and I had to kind of go through a few menus to figure out, is that I had to go to divisions, and then I had to find the scroll button to figure out where those notes are if they were higher. There was kind of like a ghost color on here. So let's say I had something on here, but it was like 6 octaves higher. It would be in a different color to where I'd have to scroll up to where it was actually placed to be able to change the note. And with this, it's like, no, dude, you got a piano roll. It's so much easier to find and very like intuitive to navigate in that way. There has been a bit of a learning curve with this. The hardest thing that I had to figure out was how to set up where my routing was going. And I will say that it was right in front of my face, but I never thought to scroll or whatever. Also, I was having a hard time because I'm in beta 6 on Bitwig. For this, as you can see, we're in version 5, which is stable, but beta 6 is not recognizing external MIDI sources, and I was losing my mind over this. And so after going back to the original version or whatever, if you want to route something to, I guess, whatever destination you want to go to, you just want to hold the sequencer, and then you can scroll through this to pick what channels and all that you want to go through. So you'll see that this says MIDI ABCD, TRS, which is that small TRS connector in the back, USB device, host, or your CV gates, all the way up to gate 4. So for me, I'm just going to leave this back on MIDI 1. This is triggering the Waldorf Iridium core, which is another device that I'll be reviewing at some point in the future as well. And since I'm on this page, something that both of those devices, the Oxy One and this, share is the fugue machine, or just the way that this runs. So we can set this to running forward, set this to backwards, ping pong, random bar, or random beat, 1/16. I would like more modes on here. Just the way that it jumps, or like changing it instead of 1/16 or whatever to the divisions. And this is going to be my first kind of like, I don't want to say it's a complaint, but it's a suggestion that I would love to see. And in order to do this, or to explain what my suggestion is, I need to go through this next piece first. First and foremost, you have a master BPM on here, which right now is synced to the DAW, but you also have something called track elasticity. And right now, this is the only way that I know of. And if I'm wrong, somebody please let me know in the comments, but I've Googled this, I've looked up the manual, I couldn't find it. I want to be wrong about this, but the only thing is that within this, in order to change the track division, let's say like instead of this playing at its normal 1/16 speed, right? You can use the track elasticity here to make it play at either half speed. Now it's playing at 1/8, or you can set this up to 200%, which goes up to double time, right? So this would be at 170 or 172. So this is really cool. The thing with this is that it only goes down to 50%. I'm okay with it only going up to 200%. I would actually like a wider range. I'd say like anywhere from 25% to 400. So that way it covers a wide gamut of your actual beat divisions. But within something like the Oxy One, this actually exists. It's called time bending, but there's also divisions to where you can just select, do I want the sequencer to play at 1/16th? Do I want it to play at 1/8, 1/4, and whatever? As far as I know, there's no option for that. I guess intuitively would think that it would be here on the first sequencer thing as we're looking. It would be cool if maybe there was a second page to where we could do that. But as of now, if you want to set this to only play eighth bar or eighth notes or whatever, then you need to actually divide where you place this. So if I go all and then I go delete, very convenient, by the way, and I want to have something that's slower, I have to something kind of like that to have those divisions. The second thing that I wanted to mention with this is the micro timing aspect to it. There is micro timing to this, and to me, that is the most important feature within a sequencer. I'm somebody that makes really crazy, swingy, off kilter beats that are, you know, just like, you probably couldn't catch most of that because of the noise suppressor. But the thing with it is that whenever you divide something on here, it jumps by 2%, 4%, 8%. I would like there to be those smaller divisions or those smaller percentages in between. It's not the end of the world, but it's kind of weird that it only jumps by those as opposed to being able to have, what is it usually, like 1% all the way to 47%. And that's going to be probably the biggest thing with this, is all of the major complaints that I have are just based off of resolution and like very fine amounts of time with this. This probably wasn't designed for somebody like me. That being said, it's not to say that it's not cool or anything, but with how fine I am with making certain things be off-placed and whatever, I have such a focus of a relationship on where stuff is placed. And maybe it's something that I'm pedantic over or whatever, but it's just the kind of music that I make, and I would love to see an update from the Hapax as well as the Oxy One sequencer even to get into those smaller resolutions for where that MIDI data is placed. That being said, it's not the end of the world with this, because some features that we have here are actually something like warping, which I don't know how to find warping outside of the way that I'm going to show you, but it's actually nested within the settings that allow us to do this. So I'm curious if there's another way to access this. But let's say I have a sequence, right? Doesn't matter. I can hold all, and I can actually hit the plus and minus buttons here in order to warp this to kind of do what I was looking for before. The problem with this, though, is that the resolution or the speed of the playhead is still the same, but it is really nice that if I want to spread something out and make it off time, that exists as well. One other thing that I find to be interesting with this is that you can see here that there's two different micro timings on here now. And so if this was available to where you had micro timing, what would you call that? Nano timing? I don't know, something like that. This isn't adjustable. It's only adjustable by whatever this click is. And as you can see, the numbers that they jump from is each one 2% is what it looks like. Yeah, so having this is kind of a strange thing to get around, but it's still nice that you can kind of just hold that with the timing and kind of make this move where you want to place it. I'm going to hit undo. Within this, if I hold the all button again, you can also shift this everything up if you want by a key. You can also grab the knob here and change the octave of this, which is very convenient, or do basically global chants, global repeats, or global occurrences. Pretty nice. So that's pretty much how you get stuff in here. You set it to a scale, then you can kind of fill things in. You can change the scale if you want and do all that. One of my favorite things that we can do on here is go all, delete, use the algorithms in order to just generate something that is random. That's one of my favorite things about the Oxy One. This one is no different. There's a little bit more options as far as the base random generator on this, but this one has one feature, which is the range on here that's actually specified, to where I'm like, that's great. So that's kind of the thing with these different sequencers on here, is like they all have like very same general feature sets, but the small nuances in between is really what makes them stand out against each other or or I don't know, make them stand on their own. So the first thing that we have here is generate, not to be confused with generate. I like generate better. And what we have is quantize, so how many steps. We've got the length, so over how long, velocity range, density range, and key range. One thing you might see below here is that there are these grayed out, actually you can't see on the camera, but there's these sub categories right here that you can manipulate. And in order to find that, let's say I want to change the key range on here, you need to press the corresponding encoder, hold it down, and then change this to where you want this to move. And so now we've got a range from A0 to B flat 6. And now that's the entire key range of what we want to incorporate. So we're going to hit generate. And now we have that. Boom, pops up on the piano roll. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. How nice is that to be able to see? It's pretty awesome. If I want to scroll, I can use the wheel here. I can also push this encoder in order to play the note that I'm on, which is kind of nice. I don't see myself using that much, but it's just a nice little touch that I can appreciate. And then also you can use the arrows as well if you just want to kind of navigate with this. If you want to change the pattern length, then you can just use the regular plus and minus buttons. So now this, don't get me wrong, this is the same speed, but this says that this is going to just only play at half the length. This is full length. This goes all the way up to 48, I believe. Or never mind, that's what the window is showing. So I think that this can actually go up to quite a bit amount of steps, probably 512 if I'm not mistaken. I think that's pretty standard within the other sequencers and whatnot. But yeah, so we have a pattern. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. Doesn't really matter. It's just one of those things that are generated within this to kind of get some context. We also have curve. So this will create stuff that goes up and then goes down. Kind of nice. Then we have symmetry, to where there's a few different options on here. We have keys, and then we also have time. And then I thought we also have steps, if I'm not mistaken. That might not be there. But what this will do is it'll create a symmetrical pattern on the other side, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. So if we go here, take a look at this. Now there's a counterpart to it, and we've just created a bunch of harmony within this. So it's a bit wild, you know, kind of crazy, but still cool that the thing exists, right? My favorite thing is shuffle, because what it will do is it will take all the notes that you have and rearrange them in a different way that will not introduce any new notes. This is probably one of my favorite features about this, because if you have some cool harmonies, or you have some cool lines that have a good relationship, but you want them to be expressed in a different way, then this will take whatever you have and just shuffle it. This pattern is a little bit wild, but it still showcases what I'm wanting to demonstrate with this. I'm sorry, if you were looking for like, let's make beautiful music on this and whatever, that will probably be for some other videos down the line. I kind of just want to tell you what this thing does and tell you why I'm excited about it. We could probably also use a cooler sound, but whatever, it's fine. So that's pretty much the gist of most of what this does and how to utilize it and whatnot. But one other thing that I want to talk about is the drum mode on here, which is pretty sick. So I'm going to step over to track 3 now. And what we're going to do is I'm going to hold the step now. And you're going to see that we have poly, MPE, and drum. And so if I move over to this, we actually have a drum mode on here. I don't know if you can read this or not. I'm looking at OBS right now and it's a little bit blurry. I think you can see that that one says cowbell. But what's cool about this is that you can actually rename these for your tracks, and now this becomes a drum sequencer. Let's be like honest for a second. Like, you can do this with anything, but it's the organization and the layout that makes it a lot easier to figure out what it is that you're doing. So in a counterpart, if I have something like a drum rack here in Bitwig, say here, then I can use this to set up whatever it is that I want to do and rename these, which is actually something that you can't do inside of Bitwig or a lot of other DAWs in themselves, unless if you name the samples themselves, right? But it even still would be nice, because these are all labeled as B whatever. I can't actually go in and label this, but you can on the Oxy One sequencer, which is kind of nice. So if I set this to close hi-hat and I want to change this into something else, say like, this isn't going to match, by the way. This is just hypothetical, but if I go and set this to clap, we go save. Well, now you'll see that this says clap, and then that's kind of just organized in a way that you can use this as your general template and then pull it up for later use. Now, whenever you first open this, I know that I've talked about how to set up to make sure that the routing is there and whatnot. You'll notice that all of these steps here are actually in a different place. And rather than move each cell to where you need it to be, sorry, I don't know if you can see that or not, but rather than move each cell where the MIDI is triggering, what we can do instead is go all, and we're going to set this down to, I think it's 43, if I'm not mistaken. So now if we set this to 43, yeah, then we've got our different drum machine on here, which is pretty nice. Within this, we've also got some other stuff that is unique to the drum mode in its own right. So if we go to the algorithm, we also have something new called every M. I don't necessarily know what the M stands for, but if I have something, say, looking for the hi-hat here. Okay, I'm just going to drag a hi-hat in here. Just for demonstration purposes. And let's say we have this on this one here. Then we can change this on here to every N. We can change this to apply. And now this will create rolls, and we can also change this into other aspects here. And so now when we hit play, I'm going to mute the first sequence on here. So let's change this up a bit. And this is just really nice to just get a bunch of stuff in here to, instead of me plugging this in, you can kind of just lay this out, which is really nice. Or again, you can go apply. You can go all, apply. Lots of different options here to kind of just get up and going with what it is that you want to do. And so I'm going to change the kit here to something just kind of easy to work with. And I'm going to grab a couple of things to make this a little bit louder. So we're just going to clip this, and then I'm going to grab a filter. Then I'm going to grab a compressor plus. Just give this a little bit of attack, a little bit of release. There's your masterclass on making big drums, by the way. Just kidding. I'm going to turn the makeup just a little bit. All right, that's a bit much. Nice. Cool. So plugging in a beat. We can hit play. I want to micro time this. So I'm going to get out of the algorithm. Go like this. Micro time this a little bit early. Micro time this a little bit early. Set this to be a little bit late. Grab the hats here. Going to go like this. Go algorithm, generate. Got a hat pattern. We can use that as a 808. Maybe on that one, we can put a filter on that. It's on the kick here. So let me go into this and put the filter on it. Set that to a different tune. Cool, so these are cool. So I'm going to grab all of these, or just grab this row and change the math to every other. Then I'm going to go in here and actually change that tom. Then maybe on this one, we can go into the last thing that I want to show you, which is the automation. So what's really cool about this is if you hit this, there's actually different automations on here that you can apply, to which we are going to do the pitch bend. And so on here, you'll see that there's this little line here. And if we change the line on this, you can create little automation curves, right? Which is freaking crazy. I've never seen anything like this before in a sequencer. And so within this, we can just grab these two, kind of like so, and apply that to these on the pitch bend. And now let's see if that works. Pretty neat. There's other things that you can apply as well. So for example, some things that I didn't talk about were the LFOs that are built in. So if I go second, you have different LFO controls. You have the effects, which I'll cover in probably another video. Some of my favorite things are the Euclidean sequencer, the swing function, the R-poly, the chance, the echo, envelope. Sorry, now I'm just naming these, but these are just some of the things that you can apply. But within that, you can grab an LFO and set this to whatever destination you have within all this other stuff, whether it be another effect or within the pitch bend, all that. You've got a matrix here that you can set different destinations to. So you can go, I'm going to set the pitch bend to control, you know, something else like the aftertouch or a program change or the waveform of an LFO or something, which is pretty crazy. And not only that, but each sequencer can have its own set of effects. So right now we're on this. If I go back to this one, you'll see that this switches over. And I'm not sure, but we can figure this out. If I go to a new pattern, you see how this has effects on it built in? If I go to this pattern, and we go back to steps, and I go back to effects, yeah, so that still stays. So I was going to lose it if this could have its own set of effects per different pattern. That might actually be a thing, but I'm not sure. But yeah, as you can see, at a glance, this thing is nuts and it's pretty awesome. How does it compare to something like the Oxy One sequencer? Does it replace it? All that other stuff. I'm not here to answer that question yet. And that's a very tough question to figure out, especially since I've only had the unit for just a little bit. But as a means of putting stuff together and getting all of your needs for a track idea, which is how I would use this. I think I've said this at the beginning of the video, but this is a sketch tool for me. This is a way to get into, you know, just getting a quick idea together and whatnot and tossing everything and, you know, just kind of uploading something super fast and then getting everything to audio and then diving into the stuff that I usually do within the DAW. But that bridge, the time that it takes to get something up and going is, as you can tell from what we were doing from here, like this came together very quickly. Yeah, so what? I might change the drums out, whatever, but as a means of the pattern, pretty sick. One thing about this as well is that you can actually save drum patterns and upload drum patterns. That is, I haven't figured out how to do that actually. If I go to this guy, which maybe I'll do in another video, unless if I can very quickly figure that out. I did also forget to mention that you have a song mode on here, but if you want to save a project, you can go here. So we can go save and then we can go random, which is great. Randomly name something, go save. So very easy to find and load stuff. But I think that what I'm going to do is a dedicated video on the other drum update stuff in the future, because I have some factory content or some other things that I want to plan for getting those drum patterns in here. And we'll cover that in the future. I don't know everything about this device yet. I know that I didn't talk about the chord mode relationship with some of this stuff. I can't remember where that is. But there's a cool option on here to where you can have something match with the chords and all that. I need to go back and watch those videos and talk about that. But for more information, check out the Scorp YouTube channel because they actually have those features that are very streamlined, very simplified. And I love the way that they present everything because it's just about the music. Whatever they're talking about, they're not even speaking. It's just like very simple text. Their marketing is very powerful. I'm just somebody that likes to geek out over stuff and blabber about cool gadgets. So thanks again to Scorp Instruments for sending this to me. I've got more content planned, but thanks to you if you stuck through the end of the video. If you want to support the channel, alchemy.com. I don't have any affiliate links for you. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm just having fun with things that I like to do. Actually, I do have affiliate links, but not for this. That's more so for Bitwig and Kilohertz. This, I'm not paid by them. They sent this to me with the intent on agreeing for content. And yeah, thanks. That was awesome. We'll do have more stuff on this in the future. Let me know if you have any questions, suggestions, or things that you would like to see me cover on this. And I'll see you on the next one.